I'm gonna go for it.
Go for it.
All right, hey everybody. So a couple of days ago, Incredibles 2 came out here in the United States. Apparently it's not coming out in other parts of the world for another month or so, which is, I'm sure, very frustrating for people in those parts of the world. But as for me, I saw it a couple days ago. I put out my normal spoiler-free review a couple days ago, and now it is time to do my spoiler-filled review and discussion where I'm going to go through every single thought that I have about the movie. Here's where this gets a little bit interesting is that obviously I'm recording this live, and the reason for that is that I was out of town for a couple of days working on, I had family issues kind of going on, and then I was at a Comic-Con the last 2 days, and so I am extremely backed up on projects I'm supposed to be doing for my channel. So in order to get everything done that I want to be able to get done for my channel, the best way for me to be able to do that was to go ahead and decide to shoot this video live, stream it directly to you. And the way I shoot my spoiler reviews is I shoot them in one take anyway, so I'm not too nervous about it, but it is a little bit of an experiment. We'll see how this plays out. So if you are watching this at a later date, if things are a little bit interesting, that's because this was recorded live. And if you're watching live right now, the way this is going to work is I'm going to work in about 10-minute chunks where I'll talk about the movie in general and my feelings on the original Incredibles, and then we'll read some of your comments. If you have some quick questions and kind of clarify some things, we'll take those for a couple minutes there. We'll talk about the first act of the movie, kind of the setup for everything, take some questions, comments from you guys. That's the general flow of how all of this is going to work. And as this is a live stream directed specifically about Incredibles 2, it's very important that any questions, comments you have be only about Incredibles, Incredibles 2, or Pixar type things. If you start asking me about Marvel movies or when I'm going to do a ranking, or if you want to know, how I like my steak cooked, wrong video for all of those fun things. We're talking about the Incredibles in this live stream just so that you know how this is going to work. Without further delay, let's kind of dive into this and start talking about my feelings on Incredibles 2. And as I said, this is spoiler-packed. You are fully warned in the title, in the description down below. So please, 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 please don't watch this until you watch the movie. So as for me, I really like this movie. I think I liked it more than the original Incredibles. Obviously, I've only seen this one time. I've seen the other one 10 times. I'm not quite sure how many times I've seen it. And I've watched one of them over the span of 14 years, and I've watched this one over the span of 2 days. So time is on the side of one movie that I've kind of been able to marinate in a little bit and get my feelings in place. But as a just kind of general first impressions of this movie, I think I liked it more than the original one. You too? I think that's what you said too. If you don't know, my wife is running the chat board right now, and she's right here with me. That was your take?
That was my take.
And so just in general,
I was never, not that I wasn't a fan of The Incredibles, but I wasn't a rabid fan.
And I'd say the same thing. I've always liked The Incredibles. I've never had any issues really with The Incredibles, besides little nitpicks here and there. But, The Incredibles has a lot of people that are just insane, enormous fans of the original movie. It's their favorite Pixar movie. It's their favorite animated movie. It's this movie that kind of defined their childhood. If you were like 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old when that original movie came out, I'm sure that's an important movie for you that it just isn't for me. It's a very good movie that came out when I was in my 20s. In which case, I probably saw it in the theater, but I don't really remember if I saw it in the theater. And so it's just not a movie that kind of has the same effect on my life as it does for a lot of you guys. If you want to tell me down below in the comment section, did you love this movie? Is it your number one Pixar movie? Tell me that kind of context as we kind of discuss some of this. But for that reason, going into this movie, this wasn't like one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It wasn't like my top 5. I can't wait for Incredibles 2. It was like, I'm sure that'll be good because it's a Pixar movie and it's a superhero movie. So I like the first one, so I'm sure it'll be good. But it wasn't like a special movie that I was highly anticipating. Like, this is the movie of the year for me. It just never was that for me. So I went into it just watching it with fairly normal expectations of it's a Pixar movie, it's going to be good. Pixar movie sequels outside of Toy Story don't have the best track record, so hopefully that we're more Toy Story 2 and less Cars 2. And then I watched it, and this is a Toy Story 2 type sequel to me. So that was kind of my impression of the movie in general. Would that be kind of your take too?
I'm sorry. I'm reading.
Okay, so that's kind of where I fall on it. And in general, to compare to the original one, both of them I think have amazing scores. I think both of them have an amazing aesthetic. The way they're designed, the set kind of period piece, the kind of superhero mixed with James Bond from the '60s spy type stuff, all joined together. I love that about both of them. And where I put the second one over a little bit is that I've just never. The actual specific plot of the original one and Syndrome have never worked for me the way they have for other people. Just in general, I've always felt that Syndrome just felt like a whiny kid. It wasn't a motivation that ever... It just never worked for me the way it does for so many other people. I don't have another way to phrase a lot of that. And it's that trope that I've talked about in a lot of my videos where it's the person that was the biggest fan of the hero slights them a little bit, and so therefore they become bitter about it. Somehow they gain superpowers, and that's the motivation. So we saw that in several movies. We saw it in Batman Forever with the Riddler back in the 90s, and then we saw that about 5 years ago with Iron Man 3. We saw it then with Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's one of these tropes that gets used a lot. And I've never liked it in any of these movies. It's never been a plot line that's felt like, yeah, that's a good motivation for someone to want to kill people. And contrast that with this movie where our main villain is someone that is, even within the context of the story, contrasted with a sibling where their parents are killed, and they have two very different responses to that. And it ties somewhat into the superhero origin story trope of the Batman story of people's parents get killed, and therefore this shapes their life. And Batman wanted to become a superhero. In this movie, Bob Odenkirk, he wanted to then make superheroes legal. He was thought that because they're outlawed, that's why his dad died. And then the sister sees it as because superheroes are out there, her parents are dead because her dad is an idiot that decided that he wanted to call superheroes instead of calling the police, and that ended up causing the father to die. So that for me is a lot more compelling of a story than Syndrome. Just across the board, I like this general villain plot line set up quite a bit more. Predictable? Absolutely. General idea of it, I like this one more. And for me, that's kind of why I think it topped it out a little bit. Could you hear anything I just said there? About the general story of the movie and the villains. Yes. What's your take on Syndrome in general? Villain from the first one.
Yeah. I'm really bad at this. That's why I don't do this. I thought he had more potential. I thought it was a good plot. It was a good origin story for a villain, but I just didn't feel like they utilized it very much, and I think they kind of did the easy way out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, it's just, especially when it's like you're going through so much of the movie, and then he's not really revealed as the villain until pretty late in the mix, and it's like, plot twist, this is who it was, and then now he's the super villain with
he went from wonky to evil really quickly, and it wasn't a smooth transition, and it wasn't a thorough transition.
And so evil that we get to the end of the movie, and we're like, yeah, he got sucked into a plane engine.
Right.
In a kid's movie. They're family movies, I know, but that for me never really worked. Like I said, this is a movie I would give very high score, thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not that we hate The Incredibles, that's not it. But as to why this one I liked a little bit more, that's the general reason why. Did you have some comments from some people that you wanted to read?
So many comments.
Just a few, the best ones that kind of encapsulate the different... And as you kind of pick out those ones, I think for me, because some of you guys, this movie is 14 years waiting. That's a lot of anticipation. That's like me going into, Phantom Menace. That's like me going into, not The Last Jedi. That's like me going into The Force Awakens, where there's this long wait, and then we get a new one. Can it live up to it? That's like me with Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, and you go into it, and sometimes they live up to it, sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. But if you don't carry the nostalgia baggage, I don't have the nostalgia baggage, you see the movie differently. And if you go into it wanting that magic of your childhood, you rarely get it. What are some good ones?
How do you like your steak cooked? No, I'm just kidding. Someone did ask
medium rare. Oh, I answered it.
You sure did. Okay. Did you enjoy the Mr. Mom vibes with this movie, i.e. Mr. Incredible staying at home and having to be a stay-at-home dad?
We'll talk about that when we kind of walk through the plot a little bit. But short answer, I didn't, going into it, I didn't like that that's the direction they were going. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The execution worked. Would be my quick answer.
Love this one so much more than the first one. Did all of the seizure-inducing flashing bother you at all, specifically the hypnosis room scene?
Was that my sister asking?
I have no idea.
My sister, that was her takeaway. Leaving the movie was, why do they have all the strobe lights and stuff? For me, that didn't bother me at all. I mean, I thought it looked very cool in the movie to me. Other comments?
Sorry, I had to check and see if that was her. Do you think The Incredibles 2 tried a bit too hard to earn a PG rating?
To earn a PG rating?
Mm-hmm. Lots of comments about the language.
I don't think they'd have to try to earn them because it's an action-based. I know what you're talking. Like I was watching, because I don't normally catch language in movies at all because language. While I don't personally use a lot of bad language, I just don't care. Like my brain doesn't filter it because everyone else does, and all the movies I watch are filled with it. So I don't notice it. But when I'm watching movies with my kids, as I was watching this one, I did pick up on a little bit that there was. It seemed like, whoa, did we need to put that? Like, why do we have to say that in this movie? So I picked up on a little bit, but yeah, it seemed a bit off to me that they did that. One final comment.
Anything in general? I mean, Incredibles, obviously.
Yeah. As best they can tie to what we just talked about, the better.
Someone just said, I wish the father had more fighting scenes.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that a little bit.
That I'll save for later, but...
So, and with that, we're going to dive into talking about the setup for the movie, where kind of things pick up. So if you want to throw questions, comments in there directed to that first act of the movie, the starting setup for where the movie comes in, throw those questions our way, and we'll touch on them in about 10 minutes once we talk through Act 1. So the movie picks up essentially right where the first one ends. I mean, that exact scene. We have that little prologue thing with the pseudo, not quite boyfriend guy, kind of doing the interrogation thing, setting things up, and then we dive right into the Underminer scene. So we kick things off. Very cool action sequence with the family battling things together and establishing essentially the tensions inside of our movie, which is nobody knows what to do with Jack because they're superheroes and they want to do superhero things, and they got a baby, so what do you do with the baby? They're trying to save the day, but this is illegal. And Mr. Incredible, I'll probably call him Mr. Fantastic a couple times in this video because, well, for the obvious reasons I might do that. Mr. Incredible destroys things, and that has consequences. So the sequence kind of goes down. Very cool. I mean, just the where CGI is at right now, just this stuff looks amazing. It just looks phenomenal. With the tail in all of it, Brad Bird's direction of these action sequences, and as you see in Frozone swinging all around, all of it, I just love the way all of it looks. It's just a feast for the eyes. Probably one of the other reasons why I just left the movie. It's like, that was better than the original one, because things look so good these days. But so we get to the end of the sequence, and as they're playing it out, we see kind of two reactions to it. We have our Bob Odenkirk character. He sees it, and he goes, oh, this is our opportunity to get superheroes legalized again, and then the scene ends and they're arrested. And a lot of the city was destroyed, and the Underminer kind of did get away, and I can see why the police would not be too crazy about this. So that's their setup for the beginning of the movie. I was actually really worried going into this movie because it was set right where the first one ended, and I kind of wondered if they're wasting an opportunity there. 14 years passes, and I tend to think about the value in telling characters' stories over the span of time and seeing them in different phases of life. So the original Incredibles shows them, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, as young people in love, and then we jump forward and they've got kids and a family and everything. So we see them in a different phase of life. 14 years pass, and so for us as an audience, we'd be totally fine feeling like a jump up and, the kids are superheroes. And so when they announced it, like they said about like a year ago, it picks up right when the first one ends. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that one. Like, I don't know if, having Mr. Underminer right there as things getting started, how good of an idea that is. But the end result with what they were able to do with the movie, the themes made a lot of sense. That in the first movie, and being a superhero is not legal yet, but they're energized to be superheroes, and we see that final scene in it. And so it kind of made sense to continue the way it fits. It's weird that 14 years passed, but it feels like the follow-up to what just happened. How does this family, now energized to be superheroes, become legal superheroes? So that's where a movie kind of kicks in. If you want to tell me down below, did you like the setup? Did you want it to wait longer? Do you think it worked really nicely, kind of doing this kind of 1-2 punch of right when this one ends, this one picks up? Is that a nice way to do it? Tell me down below in the comment section. Be looking for comments with people's thoughts on that. And so then the story kind of picks up. They're arrested. They're put in this hotel. And so you get kind of the funny little sequence where they showed in the trailer where they're eating the dinner and the mom gets vegetables. Like, why would you get vegetables? The poor kid. He probably burns through a ton of calories, being that he's a super speedster kid. That burns calories, and she's giving him vegetables, which are healthy, but not packed with calories, and so carb him up a little bit with some, starchy carbs. Anyway, but so, kind of all this kind of plays down. Frozone kind of gets picked up by our Bob Odenkirk character, so he meets up with Mr. Incredible. Elastigirl tells him, hey, we need to meet up with you. Got to put your costumes on. Got to meet up with you. So takes them off, and then we have this sequence where they are introduced to the offer. And we learn the story about these two people that are famous rich business people. Parents were killed. Therefore, one of them is now passionate about bringing superheroes back because that's what their dad was just pumped about. And so he wants to change the impression of superheroes, win the publicity war, and change the law in doing so. But the problem with this is that Mr. Incredible has a tendency to break things. Mr. Ice also, there's consequences of shooting ice all over everything. But Elastigirl, nice squeaky clean image that can potentially be the one that people will love. I thought that worked. Especially in light of current places where society's at, sort of conversations that we have where everything is all about having the right public relations and impressions and publicity. That seems like a relevant topic. While we don't talk about superheroes and it doesn't have the same setting and all the elements of this movie, that seemed like something that I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I like what you're trying to do with this. And so I just thought that was a clever way to do it. And like I said, is that 1-2 connected to the original one? Worked out pretty nicely. And then in this one, they introduced the sister character in just straight away from her name. Let me make sure I pronounce this one correctly. Where is our name? Evelyn Dever. Evelyn Dever, which evil endeavor. Little bit of foreshadowing in the name. Just a little bit of making it pretty clear where our movie is going to go. Very, oops, not that picture just yet. As soon as they introduce her, it's pretty clear she's going to be the bad guy. And I was watching it, waiting, when are they going to do the turn to reveal that she's bad? Is her brother in on it? I don't know. He seems like a pretty good guy, so that'd be a pretty harsh turn for us to suddenly not like him. But then they present her as, hanging out with Elastigirl, and they're having drinks and everything. But her name is Evelyn Dever. And her first line is the movie something like, well, you should have called the police. Something like that, where clearly she thinks her dad is to blame because of his passion for superheroes. That's probably my biggest issue with the movie, is how obvious all of that was. You know where it's going as soon as that's introduced. How about, you didn't see that at all?
I thought it was going to be the brother.
You did? Okay, you did?
If I had to pick between the two, I was going to pick him, which in hindsight, I see all of the obvious signs that it was her. But at the time, I was leaning more towards him.
But did you ever as soon as she came on screen? So I mean, I kind of thought it could be him because that's the trope of movies like this. They introduce the person that wants to help them, and then it reveals that they're the bad guy. And so I was thinking,
so passionate about the cause. I was thinking that he wanted the heroes to be successful so desperately that he would orchestrate.
Or yes,
to make
I was thinking that it
successful.
could be that one too. That he's behind all of it because he's going to profit from it, or he's
one of those like blinded by passion.
Blinded by passion.
He didn't mean it as a bad thing, but it was a bad
thing. And
thing.
maybe what was going to happen at the end was that it's not that he turned supervillain, but whatever he was doing to try and manufacture things gets out of control. Yes. He loses control of it, and so then they have to stop it, and he learns his lesson of, you can't control things like that. But that's not the way it played out. Obviously, it was the person whose name rhymes with Evil Endeavor, which that was the one that I was leaning towards most as soon as she came on screen. It seemed pretty obvious what was going to happen in the story based off the setup of the movie. So, before we kind of dive into the division of labor and the Mr. Mom plotline and her kind of on her adventures with everything.
Yeah.
Do we have any comments on the setup for the movie? Did people want it to have a longer gap? What's the general vibe?
Ryan O'Toole wanted to know, I thought this was it worth starting the film that way if the Underminer had no impact on the movie after that? I can understand it happening right after the end of the first, but something to think about.
That's true. That's on my review. I got so many people saying, "Where'd the Underminer go?"
Our son talks about it all the time.
Yeah, the movie ended, and our 6-year-old son, "Where'd the Underminer go?"
He's convinced there's going to be a third one because they have to catch him.
Yeah,
he's convinced because it wasn't resolved, and so there has to be another movie.
And so, if my 6-year-old son is in the mindset of, "Hey, where'd the guy go?" That's a hanging thread. That was a bit of an odd thing to do because you can pick up with that one as a way to just kind of bridge the two movies, but because they let him go, and he got away with all the money, and he's still out there, it just feels like this loose thread that you're thinking about. Why would they do that?
I'm sorry. You asking me why would they do that, or you're just
No, that's a rhetorical question. I'm asking you, what are some people's takes? Did they want it to take place later? Did they like that it started right afterwards? General feelings on the setup for the movie.
Thought setup was great. People want to know why it took them 14 years to make it.
The real question, why did it take 14 years?
Lots of the same sort of question. If the Underminer was at the beginning, why didn't he show up at all during the rest of the movie? That's basically. I thought the score for the opening scene was phenomenal.
Yeah, so for me, the Underminer watching the movie didn't bother me that he disappeared.
That wasn't me. That was a comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't bother me. Looking back on the movie, in light of what I now know that he didn't have any impact on the rest of the story, that's another problem with the movie. That's a weird thing to do, to leave that open of a thread. Like, make such a big deal. Like, we're going to pick up right with this one. Because you can tell a different story. You can do, like, a montage that picks up, like, it shows a montage with the Underminer and then a couple other things. And then it picks up with them stopping a bank robber. You could do that and not have it feel like, why did we leave this thread dangling like this? That was kind of weird to do that in such a prominent sort of way. Seems a bit odd. To me. Any other questions real quick before I kind of dive into the main heart of the movie?
I don't know about questions. Lots of people saying they liked it, some wishing that they liked it as much as everyone else. They just weren't feeling it for one reason or another. Some also agreed with me, or I guess you, that they were thinking it was the brother. A bunch of people really like the figure of the Bad Girl and Elastigirl.
There's been a lot of comments about Elastigirl being very thick in this movie.
Also the lady, the Evelyn.
Evil Endeavor is what I'll call her because
yes,
Evelyn Dever.
Did you want to address the short in this at all?
We can talk about the short at the very end of it. Anyway, let's pick up talking about the movie. So, I'm pointing the wrong way. Elastigirl picks up on her adventure trying to save the day. And so we have this sequence where there's a train that she has to save the day. Just, like I said, amazing stuff. The way they're able to capture these and just creatively use their abilities and parachute powers and stretchy types of everything. The score, all of it just makes for extremely exciting cinema up on screen. with what they're able to do these days is amazing. And for those of you that are attracted to Elastigirl, there's plenty of things in this movie where they throw her into stretchy things, angles. I watched Jeremy Johns' review, and he very firmly established that he's attracted to her in a major way. Like she's the hottest.
There's so many thick comments right now.
Yeah.
In your comment section.
So many comments over the last couple of days. She's quite popular with men these days. I personally thought the shaping of the bottom to the legs was awkward to me, the way it was done. So not my thing with the direction that they went with it. But so she goes on her adventures. Back home, we have Mr. Incredible with the kids. And there's this whole kind of subplot kind of going on with the daughter because they fully erased the memory of the boyfriend.
That was unclear at the beginning, but yes. Like when we saw his memory being erased,
yeah,
it was not clear that it was everything. Like we found that out with her.
Yes. And so then as it plays out, she goes to talk to him. And so she's frustrated, kind of cynical about all of the superhero type stuff. She pretty quickly finds out that it wasn't like what happened there. And it's not that the guy just is ignoring her, that memory was erased. And it's the dad's fault. But our main plot line back at home, Jack has powers. And Jack has lots of powers, weird powers. And he's a kid, so he cannot control his powers. Now, this was weird to me, and I think it was weird to a lot of people, because at the end of the last one, we see that he has powers, and they're doing power things with him, and then this one picks up, and everyone's like, wow, Jack has powers! And, like, am I missing something, or didn't they see him with powers in the last one? Because they use him, didn't they throw him up in the...
Yeah.
Did he turn into the demon, and they throw the demon up in the sky or something?
They definitely threw him. I mean,
you guys can tell me in the comments section.
But yeah, I mean, he definitely had powers at the end. I think maybe it was just it was spontaneous then.
Yeah.
Like it was obvious that he had powers. I think you're right. I think it was just something they overlooked or made too much of a big deal in the second one because it was in the first. But
because she's like, Elastigirl says, I missed his first power.
Yeah. Which she did.
In comment section, tell me, am I missing something? But didn't she see that in the first movie at the end of that one? But so that's the wrong graphic. This is the one I want. But because of all of this, Mr. Incredible becomes very tired. He's getting overworked. So and they're doing the Mr. Mom thing. When I saw that in the trailer, I was like, this is such a trope. Like, this is played out in so many movies that they do the role reversal, and the dad who's so good at the job normally suddenly isn't needed at his job. He's back at home and he can't pull it off right. It's a bit of a trope, and not one that I'm normally terribly crazy about. Especially when it's like, the woman's doing great, she's perfect at everything. The man's a dummy that can't. I'm not crazy about that, but they earn it here because Jack turns into a demon, shoots lasers out of his eyes, multiplies himself, and shoots himself into, or disappears into a different dimension. Fair enough. If Mr. Incredible can't keep up with that, I'm not gonna blame him. Sometimes I have trouble with my kids, and they've never shot lasers out of their eyes, at least not that I have seen yet. So they kind of earn it with all the kind of different kind of changes kind of going on with everything happening in it, and so it didn't bother me too much. And there's a lot of really funny stuff. I don't remember liking Jack in the first movie. Like, that wasn't.
He wasn't really a character. I mean, he was more like of a prop. He was a baby.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of has some stuff at the very end, but not anything distinguishable. This movie...
They definitely... Remember the babysitter? There was weird stuff with the babysitter. His powers were being exhibited when the babysitter was watching him.
Yes.
So they definitely missed that. Sorry. Just...
So then... where were you? Jack... In this movie, he's like a scene stealer. He keeps showing up, and he's fighting squirrels, and then he starts laughing and giggling and smiling, and you're like, I love Jack. He's amazing. And so I was nervous about this plot line, but they pulled it off. I thought that it worked really nicely. You too? Your thoughts on the Mr. Mom plot and Jack?
Jack is my favorite part of this movie, hands down. The raccoon scene was hilarious. So I know we're not quite there to that in the plot, but so I liked Jack. The Mr. Mom thing was fine. I wish they could have balanced it better. I wish it wasn't such an extreme, she has to get all the glory or he does. I wish they could figure out some sort of a balance before the very end of the movie. That's just
and that goes to the question of, I wish that Mr. Incredible, people saying, I wish Mr. Incredible had more action in the movie.
Lots of people say that, yeah.
And if you see them as a one-two punch, you put the two movies next to each other, you can say Elastigirl didn't really get a bunch of action until the third act of the first movie, and so you flop this with this one, you put the two together, and it's pretty well balanced. Mm-hmm. That's the way I would see it, because they're doing it right afterwards. If there was more of a gap or something like that,
like 14 years?
Like, say, for example, 14 years passed, perhaps it would feel more off to me. But when they're doing kind of the right next to each other, they complement each other to me. So it didn't bother me too much on that point. What are some comments from the chat board on Mr. Mom type things, the setup, Elastigirl in action, thickness?
A little feisty. Yeah, they're having fights about, we need to stop talking about that and respect, not us, but the commentary needs to stop and respect her as a strong female character instead of sexualizing her.
We're getting so serious.
It's very serious. I don't disagree, but it's getting a little riled up. It was smart on Brad Bird's part to switch up the main protagonist for this movie. Brad Bird said he would only make a sequel to Incredibles if he could make it as good, so that's why it took so long to make. I love how the movie connected to the first movie, which is pretty much what we just talked about. It was so good. I saw it last Wednesday as a double feature in IMAX. I'm a little jealous. That would be fun.
Yeah, that's for us. We don't get to go to a lot of IMAX screens because they're so far away. And then with kids, it's just
there's no center aisle ever since we saw The Dark Knight or whatever it was we saw. I'm like because you want to sit in the middle.
Yeah.
But then you have to walk.
So when we went to go see The Dark Knight Rises, we went opening day. Took my interns with me, and one of them even went with like a Bane mask and everything, all out. And he was like taking pictures with people. And then we're watching the movie, and it gets to the point in time where the police are charging Bane's army. Right as the climax of the movie is about to happen, and then my buddy dressed as Bane stands up and walks out to go to the bathroom. He's like, excuse me, just stepping over everyone right at the climax of the movie. Anyway, that's a little bit of a rabbit trail. Any other thoughts on the setup for the Mr. Mom, their take on it?
Not specifically the Mr. Mom thing.
I know some people, this is the typical internet these days. A lot of complaints about just the feminist message in this movie, and of course the dad has to be squashed down and the woman has to. But then I got some other comments from people saying Elastigirl didn't have a story arc. There's a woman problem in this movie. I just try to watch movies and be entertained. If a movie overtly states its agenda and what it's trying to do, then I can be like, all right, you're pushing something on me. But telling a story that has logical reasons for what's happening, and they're not making characters as figureheads for their own political agendas, I just don't get worked up about too many things. I try not to. It's just like, is there a good reason in the story for what's happening? In this movie, there was a good reason. Elastigirl does not smash things the way Mr. Incredible does. There's a logical reason for what they did, and therefore I'm not going to get worked up over it. And likewise, when someone's like, well, this movie has a woman problem, Elastigirl doesn't grow in this movie. But she also is like the action hero for the first 2/3 of the movie. Like, every character can't have all the different things you want characters to have, and so I didn't fully understand that side of things. Did you have any kind of take on the feminism discussion about this movie? And
I haven't.
Does it have a woman problem?
Well, they were saying that Dash had a more prevalent role in the last film, and Violet got more of the spotlight in this one as well. So it's just kind of that balance.
Yeah, just you kind of, in Jack's more prominent. You shift things around, and you put them together, and you get a nice picture of all the different characters. They get their moments to shine in all of it. All right, so kind of progressing through our story, they do some investigating. We'll kind of jump forward. Elastigirl breaks into an apartment. Or excuse me, she's being interviewed because of the success that she's had. And in this, the screen slaver is very clearly defined, discovered in this one. He uses a screen to control the interviewer. Some different types of things happen. So our screen slaver is introduced in the storyline. Where we got a graphic for him? Somewhere in here. Here we go. So he's introduced in our story. We do some investigating. She tracks him down. And she goes into a room, and then that's where the strobolite party breaks out. Some people hated that part. I thought it just looked cool. Like, it was a interesting look for a fight sequence. So our fight kind of breaks out, and the one watching the whole thing kind of being, I wonder who's going to be under the mask, because they've only introduced a couple characters, so there's only so many people it could potentially be. And so fight breaks out, they're fighting, and then person gets defeated. The mask comes off, and it's this person that seems confused. And immediately, it's like, obviously it's not this guy. You just established that the technology can control people. So obviously, that's what happened to this guy, that the technology is controlling him. And it's frustrating to me inside of the movie that Elastigirl and the police didn't immediately go, we caught someone, but let's find out what the real story is, because we know something else is probably going on here. Like, that's very, like, what? How do you not putting this together? This is really, really obvious. At the same time, I thought that was a very clever villain device, to have the villain have technology to be able to do that. And so anyone can turn into the screen slaver. I really like that aspect of it. So the fact that people are dumb about what? This guy's kidnapped everybody. This guy's committing all these crimes. He's the screen. That's not cool. But the actual idea of it was cool. Would you agree with that? Did you like the general idea of the technology controlling people?
Yes. Sorry, no, that's a short answer.
That is a short answer.
I thought it was creative. I thought it hadn't been done in a while. Certainly not in a cartoon. I liked the style a lot. I told you I noticed the decade vibe a lot more in this one than I did in the others, and I felt like that lent itself well to the technology spin. It was very geometric.
Yes.
I liked that.
All of it just looks cool, and the way it's designed
nice.
And everything.
Come on.
My dog decided.
When are you doing your Pixar ranking?
Pixar ranking is dropping Tuesday.
Okay.
That's very out there. I did a community post about it, mentioned it in my review.
They're just wondering where it ranks, and so I know that you're going to be putting that out.
Yeah, the Pixar ranking drops Tuesday. I couldn't get it done tonight. Those rankings take 8 hours to make, 10 hours to make. They're very intensive, time consuming to try and get them nice and concise, put the video clips on and everything. It take a long, long time to do. So that'll be Tuesday. So I'll be working a lot tomorrow night to make sure that happens. So anyway, things are going well because they're saving the day, and Bob Odenkirk gets together a bunch of people to go out on a cruise to sign stuff. So his new team of recruited superheroes kind of get together with all these ambassadors who also have superheroes, and they head on out on a cruise to...
A Caribbean cruise?
Probably not a Caribbean cruise.
You just said it exactly like Michael Scott did in the dinner party. Cruise, a Caribbean cruise. Sorry. Rabbit trail. Yeah,
a little bit of rabbit trail. So I don't remember exactly how the pieces played out exactly, but in this stretch of time, Evil Endeavor reveals, because they're having a little chat, and reveals she's the bad guy, puts the glasses on her so she gets control of Elastigirl, and then... somewhere in there, they took Jack off to our Edna, and so there's a lot of different things that kind of happen. So I don't have it all mapped out in my head at the exact moment. So then,
someone says the best part was Edna and Jack's relationship.
Would make sense. So Mr. Incredible is going to head on out to. She gets the phone call. Hey, I need you from Elastigirl. So he's going to go off to try and help her, save her, whatever needs to happen. So calls Frozone to come over. As Frozone is approaching the house, The new team of superheroes have got the goggles on, and they're going to attack. And another amazing action sequence. The way they're having Frozone getting to be the real hero for a little bit, like, get out of here, you guys, and then they summon the Incredible Car, and he's trying to get them to the Incredible Car, and he's doing every clever thing he can with the ice, and then you got other fun things going on. I found this amazing graphic that actually translated into my no. Sorry, everyone. So anyway, there they show up, and they got their glasses on. And they're chasing them all around the house. And then the thing I loved was the portal girl, and what they're able to do.
Is it because it was Sophia Bush?
It's absolutely because it was Sophia Bush, 100%. But is that? Can you blame me?
No.
She's pretty,
and she's got that voice,
and she did the portal thing too, and so.
She's got that really nice low register voice.
What
are you doing?
I'm sorry. I have a graphic of the portal, and it loops, and so I was going to play it for you guys, but it disappeared out of here. So now I'm just throwing graphics up there like I'm an idiot, live streaming to how many people?
Good question. 60 is what mine's showing, I think.
So anyway,
Assuming mine's accurate.
But so incredible action sequence. At the end of it, they do get the glasses onto our hero.
Chloe did not like that part.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to watch that part again when the glasses get on the mom.
And there it is. I found my Portal 1. So we'll put it on here. So anyway, great little action sequence happens. The kids take off. They have to go be the superheroes. Frozone's captured. Everyone's captured. Mr. Incredible shows up to save the day. Little mini fight breaks out between the two of them. She goes in for the kiss, slaps the glasses on him. He's captured now too. It's just the kids. Then they start the procedures to sign all the treaties and everything with the cameras going. And, we got a problem. All the heroes have gone bad. And so then they walk in and say...
Well, they're
all under control.
Yeah.
And so then they kind of announce all of this is kind of taking place. And we kind of move into our third...
that is a good one. I'm glad you found it.
We move into our third act of the movie. And we'll pause real quick. Any comments about the...
So many. About
read
what?
some...
I'm sorry. Specific. What are you looking for?
That section of the movie. Particularly about the Sophia Bush and the portal lady.
I don't understand. There was one. Is it weird? I was kind of shipping Elastigirl with Void. I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Do you know what that means?
I don't know. Find one that makes.
Something?
I don't. These kids with their secret codes. What else you got?
Mr. Incredible was weak in this movie. The Underminer beat him. He got destroyed by Brick, and he didn't really do anything else. I don't have a lot right now on Void or the other superheroes that were thrown in there. I have other questions I can ask you, but they're not necessarily about the...
No, if they don't have anything right now, we'll continue on. So we go into our third act. The kids have to free their parents, and then and then all of them have to battle all of these superheroes. And what I really liked is that they had a bunch of characters that are like new superheroes, and they have cool powers, and they do interesting things, and they're having a battle on a boat, and I just dug all of that stuff that they were doing during, like, all of it.
They're popping up now. I think it's the delay. So there were points near the end where stuff was stupid, like when Void was trying to get the glasses on Violet, and Void is about to get them on, and then she just stops and lets Violet fight back. They're really impressed with the villain and her... how human she is, her animation, so it's kind of creepy. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Nope. Putting you back in timeout.
Poor people getting put in timeout.
Nope, they're making their own choices. Wish they'd gone further into Evelyn's motivation. Void in all caps. That's about it for mind-bending guys using the pipes against Mr. Oh man, it just moved. Mr. Incredible, and then he just stops and lets Mr. Incredible get him off. So I think they're just expressing frustration with the
logic inside of the scenes themselves, where in order for the heroes to get out of it, the villain has to do something irrational. Yes. Fair enough. So anyway, they slowly, one by one, kind of free the glasses off of them. Evelyn grabs her brother, rushes him to the escape thingy. They're trying to escape, and what I appreciate is that at no point in time does he kind of wimp out. He doesn't.
Who?
The brother, Bob Odenkirk.
Agreed.
He doesn't suddenly be like, "Oh, sister." He's always trying to be. He's always the same guy. Has the same value set.
Which is true of her as well.
Yes, they stick to their guns. They're not like what happened to them when their parents died shaped them into who that they became. So they're taking off, and then cool little sequence where Portal and Elastigirl do this like portal hop thing up to the ship. Very cool.
Stressed me out.
Yeah, exactly though. That's how good this movie was directed. That's how good Brad Bird of a director is. That you're watching.
Said they wish the Fantastic Four was as good as this movie.
So it's just
that made me laugh.
And that's like so many people say things like that of like, why don't you get Brad Bird to do an incredible or Fantastic Four movie? But he is able to craft these sequences in an animated film where that like you feel the stress of it, and even if you just stop to think about it, if she falls down, what does she do? She hits water. She can turn into a parachute. But still, he crafts it so well that you care enough that you're like, is they gonna be able to?
Well, there's a time restriction or a time sensitivity.
Right. Just there's a sense of urgency. Like there's a ticking clock. They got to get there in time. That's good directing, and he wrote the movie too. Like he wrote and directed this movie, so there's a reason that Brad Bird has been my number one pick to do a Star Wars movie since 2012.
That's true. I remember you saying that.
All the way back. He's the guy that I have always said. So he finally gets up there. Ship kind of crashes down. She rescues her. The boat is flying into the city super fast. All of our superheroes have to work together to try and stop it and save the day. And they stop it just in time so there's not massive destruction at the end of the movie, which was the insurance problem, which was why the city doesn't like them. Any number of other things that cause people to have issue with superheroes. So they get survive. The people sign all of their stuff. It kind of goes through. And superheroes are reinstated in the movie. And the brother is still kind of like, they're saying to him, you know your sister's going to have to go to jail. You know she's in trouble. And he doesn't really back down. He's like, yeah, we need to have superheroes. And then the movie credits start rolling, and we see the Underminer roll across the screen. For me, I dug it. Like, predictability, absolutely, that's a problem. Character logic, Underminer disappearing, that's a problem. General sense of things, general flow of a plot that I actually resonate with and cared about, like where things went, and villain motivations, I dug it more than I dug Syndrome. I dug this plot, and Mr. Incredible's on an island testing things, and hitting the gym, and just because some bratty kid had his feelings hurt, I just resonated with this one more because it's taking superhero type things, the trope of Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, so he turns into a superhero, and it takes that and splits it in two ways, which is parents get killed, and one person turns that into, I'm going to continue my parents' vision for superheroes being legal, and the other one goes, my parents were fools. Superheroes are the problem. We're never going to have superheroes ever again. I think that works. The humor worked. The new, more Jack worked really nicely. The visuals are amazing. They were in both movies, but 14 years of technology has made these Pixar movies these days are just mind-blowing how good they are. They're just incredible. So that's for me. Why I would think as of right now it could change, but pretty sure this is going to be the one that I prefer over the first film. So there you have it. There's my kind of walkthrough of the movie. Did people want to start having quick comments? Questions?
I have several things queued. Do you think the side superheroes worked? Did you like them?
I did. I really liked what they did with this.
Other than Sophia Bush.
Not other than Sophia Bush. In addition to Sophia Bush. And did you want to watch One Tree Hill tonight?
Absolutely. I do.
So I just dug what they did with them, which is they have a whole set of superheroes that are not based off comic book characters that have a different set of abilities, and they're interesting. They all have little quirks. They're all characterized with something about the way, even I crush things. I don't uncrush things. Like just little things like that give them intrigue and make them interesting. Little ways that make them pop.
After that, that part I felt initially was kind of weak, but then right after that, I think he said, "Do people ask you to unpunch things?"
Yeah,
that was funny.
Right.
At first, I was like, "Oh, that was a weird direction to take it," and then he said that, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty clever, actually."
Yeah. And so I totally dug the new superheroes in building this world that has all these superheroes in it, and it's populated with them. I liked what they did with that. And then, like I said, I liked what they did with the villain of... she doesn't have powers herself. She just knows how to get control of other people, and that makes it interesting.
They were an interesting pair.
Yeah.
The way that worked and how they... Yeah, they're like us, as a matter of fact. In front of the camera, behind the camera. Am I an evil bad guy in disguise? Who knows? More people saying Elastigirl is hot. But I liked the whole concept where he was the entrepreneur and the dreamer, and she was like sort of the mind behind it all. But anyway, more stuff.
Sure. Well, and on the villain, that they found a way to have a villain that doesn't need to have superpowers themselves, but is formidable. There's like an ongoing, constant sense of danger because anyone can become a supervillain. Now you're game.
What were your thoughts about Frozone? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but
Frozone's great. I
liked him a lot in this one. I liked him more in this one. They filled him out.
Yeah, they let him be a superhero and make him.
Well, he was also like a person.
Yes.
Like it wasn't just a character.
He's not just the Samuel L. Jackson personality. He's dimensions to him. He's the friend. He's got the relationship back at home. And in the sequences, it's like he's the guy that in superhero movies, you always want to have that hero that's being pushed to their limits to try and save the day. That you're just watching them desperately do everything they can. So you think about Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man's on the train trying to stop that train as he's shooting the webs everywhere and he's pulling on it. You think about Infinity War and Captain America is grabbing Thanos' hand and like he's just straining with everything he can to stop him. And so Frozone gets to be in this movie. He's the character that in a lot of these sequences, he's in front of the train shooting ice everyone. He's the one battling the team of supervillains trying to let the kids get out of there. And so he gets to really be the superhero and have these power moments without really having that much screen time compared to all these other characters. And that's probably also to somewhat why it feels like Mr. Incredible got slighted, because you can point to a bunch of different things about Elastigirl that shine. You can point to Jack moments where he gets to shine and do some fun things, and Frozone gets to be the hero, but Mr. Incredible, he's at home, with the kids struggling, goes to save his wife, gets captured, and so he doesn't kind of get his moment to be incredible. Did you see what I did there? That was intentional. That was not unintentional.
Wow, it was brilliant. You got big dinosaur brains.
What we got next?
Frozone's wife. Just shout out to Frozone's wife, and the appreciation for the smallness of her cameos, and yet their resonance.
Yeah.
I think she's hilarious. Better get back here ASAP. She's sassy. I like her. Why are you pointing at me?
I was not pointing at you. The screen is mirrored. I was pointing the other direction. That's not true. I was pointing at her.
Yeah,
she could probably see me in real life, not just on camera.
I sure can. Did you have thoughts on Screenslaver as a villain, on the design? I think you mentioned already that you were a little disappointed in the obviousness of it.
Yeah, so in general, I've repeatedly said I really liked Evelyn's motivation, the way she's using other people to be the muscle while she's the mastermind. I dug the strobe light, flash screens, geometrical look of all that stuff. The specific look of Screenslaver in and of himself. I mean, it's a villain outfit in a movie like this. The designs in this are pretty sleek. I mean, they're straightforward. They're not complex. And so the idea of, the mask with the big eyes and teeth, I mean, just, it's like the design for these. I don't have particular thoughts on the design of it, but...
Someone said when Helen was following Screenslaver, he was having an absolutely amazing monologue in the background about us being too connected to our screens, and then it was never talked about again, and they didn't like that, which I agree. I think it added a depth to the character, or implied a depth to the character that right after that was torn away because it was then obvious that it wasn't the person that they captured.
Yeah.
And then it didn't go anywhere after that. That had nothing to do with the Screenslaver.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So maybe that's after we're adding to our list of issues with the film. I don't know why I did this. That's like a very strange gesture to do. If we're adding another to the list, as a general overlying problem with the movie, it leaves things hanging a good bit. It puts things out there where you go, oh, Underminer. Oh, that little monologue right there. And then it does not tie them.
How do you feel about the baby Groot complex that Jack had, as in the useless character that we grow to love and discover is actually a valuable asset? It's a good comparison.
How do I feel about that?
Sure.
I'd have to see the movie again to see if I felt that it kind of had that same kind of vibe to it. Because when it's a superhero family and they establish the child as apparently being the most powerful of all of them, just out of control because it's a baby, I wouldn't naturally think about like that particular way it was described of the character that seems like a nuisance that turns out to be really useful. That's not naturally where mine would drift as the interpretation of the movie itself or the character itself and the function as it would be perceived by the characters and this guy.
Kind of agree with the villain, and the heroes never acknowledge or offer a response to her argument. They never offered a reason for why superheroes need to exist. Made the themes a little murky.
That's true. I don't have a response. That's I think they're so one of the things I've heard from some people is that the first movie's themes were a little bit more focused, and this one it's a little bit unclear what exactly is the movie trying to say. And I just don't know that I need an Incredibles movie to teach me something like that. And I don't know that sort of idea that Syndrome's message and everything was actually that impactful for me. It was like, yeah, what if everyone's incredible, then no one's incredible? Like, because his motivation seems so weak to me, that wasn't something to me that was like the strong point of that movie, is the theme that was woven pretty nicely. So the lack of a theme that you go, that's my takeaway of the movie, I just didn't feel that way coming out of it, because that's not the way the first movie hit me.
Do you want there to be a trilogy? Do you want there to be a third? Sorry, I'm far away.
That's tricky. Do I want a third Incredibles movie? Short answer is I think it lends itself to more movies, more so than on a face value. Incredibles lends itself to ongoing movies. because it's superheroes. And so there's always more tales to tell. And when you're talking about a family of superheroes, there's also just an ongoing number of ways to have deep emotional things in it. You can jump forward 15 years, and 2 of these kids are now full-time superheroes. The dad's irrelevant because he's old and legitimate, not just middle-aged like in the first movie, but he's legitimately an old man. There's things you can naturally easily think through what you would do that would be powerful. But at the same time, Pixar's at its best when they're being risky. Their risks are the ones that really pay off. And when they go, kids love Cars, let's do Cars 2. Cars is great, let's do Cars 3. These are not the best of the bunch. And I have big concerns about Disney in general right now, that they're playing the safe game, and they're just in general
reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, well, they're saying, well, wheels are great. Let's only make wheels. And so instead of coming up, Pixar 10 years ago was coming up with these terrible pitches for movies. What if there's like a robot that doesn't talk? What if there's a rat that's a cook? What if there's an old man that flies his house? What if there's a fish and, like, in the opening of the movie, his wife gets brutally murdered in front of him, and then all of his unborn egg baby kids get killed except one? Like, these are not good ideas for family movies. And they're incredible. They're phenomenal movies. And you look at The Incredibles, that's just a pretty safe, like, that's a clever idea for a movie that's not insane. The fish movie about the dead fish babies, about the old man flying his house. These are insane ideas for movies that are incredibly good. And you follow up this string of Up, WALL-E, Ratatouille, Incredibles with, and then Toy Story 3 with, what did we get? Cars 2.
Yeah.
The sequel, people generally were like, Cars, that's probably the weakest of all their movies. Let's do a second one because, like, we can sell so many car toys. That's the market, the merchandising for Cars is phenomenal. Like, just they make so much money on that stuff because
Cars toys.
Yeah, we have so many Cars toys. That's not where Disney does things best.
I did like Planes.
But it's Disney Toon Studio. It's not Pixar.
My bad.
Which
I keep
people
forgetting that. I keep forgetting. You told me that like
we
4
talked about it
this week.
3 days ago. Like,
Sorry.
what? This isn't a Pixar movie. Like, yeah, that's why it made $30 million, not $700 million.
Probably why they cast Dane Cook as the voice.
What's the big name we're gonna get for Planes? Dane Cook, that stand-up comedian that was really popular for 6 months, 13 years ago.
For being super raunchy and not kid-friendly.
Perfect for kids. So that's why I think Incredibles 3 of the Pixar movies, this is the one that is the most franchisable, most obvious to do sequels to. Like Monsters Inc., let's do a prequel of them in college that's Revenge of the Nerds, except with monsters. That seems like a bit of a stretch. Or Finding Dory, like, what if she gets lost this time? It much more naturally flows out of Incredibles 3, flows to do Incredibles 3. But I want Pixar to take risks again. Inside Out, risky idea. I thought it paid off. Coco paid off.
Can't believe I like that movie.
Yeah, she can't, she's like, what is this movie about death? This is not a kid's. Oh, I love it. This is so good, and the music's delightful.
I don't think I sound quite like that.
It's exactly what you sound like. It is. I talked for a long time on that one.
Sure you did. Sorry. Do you think that The Incredibles 2 is derivative in nature by increasing the size of the film to meet the caliber of the successes in the MCU?
I think it's derivative because I don't see the spectacle of this one didn't seem like it was that much bigger than the first movie. And the third act, in some ways, felt almost anticlimactic in that they're just on a boat. They're just on a, like, the scale of it is a very cool boat with a lot of cool characters on it. The stakes are political. It's like, is this treaty going to get signed? And so I don't see that in the sense that these Marvel movies and DC movies, there's the sky beam, the cloud of garbage flying over the city, the Earth's gonna blow up, New York City's gonna be blown to pieces, Sokovia's gonna be picked up into the sky and thrown on the Earth. Like, that's the scale. Thanos is gonna snap his fingers and half the people are gonna die. That's the scale. Those ones. This one with people on a boat, I don't see the bridge on that. Where it is derivative is that one parent gets a new mission. They go off by themselves while the other person's back at home. They get kidnapped and the family gets pulled into it. And Edna becomes their friend slightly before that. In that way, it follows the beats a little bit of the first one, but I didn't think it was that much like the first one. But I also haven't watched the first one as many times as a lot of you guys have. But what is that, a year ago? We used to watch it. We watched it like every day of the week about a year ago for a month. And then of the things that they rewatched, Incredibles is by far the best.
That's why I think it drove me crazy, is because it was the one that didn't bother you the most, which meant that it got watched more, which meant that I saw it a lot. So
what do you got next?
How do you think the characters progress through the plot? Just thoughts on that.
On general character progressions, it seems the way the progressions in it seem to happen are more of the family dynamics of them as a whole learning to understand their place and everything, that we have to work together. And sometimes I make a sacrifice and sometimes you make a sacrifice, and sometimes the wife's the hero and sometimes I'm the hero. Watching the kids at home is in and of itself a good, heroic, good thing to do. And part of being a hero means that there's consequences for me. That's to me what that was kind of my feeling on a lot of it, is that the family grows. It's not necessarily this character has a gigantic wow moment. It's them as a family are growing on this adventure.
Who's your favorite character in Incredibles?
Bob Odenkirk.
What?
Bob
the new
Oden.
one?
I don't know.
The brother? Who's
what?
Lloyd?
Lloyd? I've been talking for too long. And I was at a Comic-Con earlier today. Lloyd?
Yeah.
I can't come up with these types of things.
Someone said Lloyd was interesting.
I can't pull it up at the moment. That means I'm probably running out of fuel at the moment if I can't pull anything up. But if you guys don't know, I was at a Comic-Con all day the last 2 days, and then in Mississippi driving back and forth 2 days before that. So my mind might be a little bit fried at this point in time. Easy questions for me.
Okay, well, real
little
quick,
softball.
I just want to remind you, we're going to have to, when we end it, we want to talk about the short at the beginning.
Did you have a question real quick? We'll talk about the short.
Yeah, just wrap it up. We will. Sorry. Just reminding you, since your brain. What was one thing you wish you could have seen in the film that you didn't? Or was there anything that you were disappointed wasn't included?
I think if there was a change to be made to the movie, is you needed to give Mr. Incredible his moment. Like a moment that was just in the final battle, when the ship at the end is coming in and they're trying to stop it without causing damage. He says, I'll sacrifice myself, not this building. Something like that, to where he makes a choice thinking this is it for me, but this is going to save everyone else. This is what the city needs. And just his moment to really be the hero, or his moment to just pummel someone where you're like, that was awesome. That's what the movie needed. And if there were some of the things were predictable, I wouldn't even change a lot of those things, and I don't mind at the end. But I would, if I were to make a change to the movie, it would be to give Mr. Incredible his moment.
Oh, might have been Void instead of Lloyd. That would make sense. I don't know exactly
would make a
how
lot
it
more
came
sense.
Through, but I totally know who Void is. I don't know who Lloyd is, except for the context of Ninjago, which we're not discussing right now.
All right, let's talk about our short at the beginning of the movie.
I want
one more
question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did you notice the audible age differences in the voices of the cast after 14 years?
No, but I wasn't trying to listen for it.
I was actually wondering, I know just like making the movie wise, they wouldn't, I can't imagine they would actually structure it off of this, but I was wondering if maybe Mr. Incredible didn't have more crazy scenes because maybe the voice actor was older and couldn't.
And he's old. Like, he's not just, he was older back then. Yeah, he's probably like 72 now. Let me look this up real quick. Nope, he's 74. So he's legit.
So that was a theory I had, but I didn't notice. He sounded tired, which was relevant for his character in the movie. But I don't know that. I'm curious to know if that had any say in the story. Like, hey, it's been 14 years.
So our short. What was the name of it again?
Bao. Something like BAO.
It was just a weird direction to go. I think everything about it, for the most part, was pretty off-putting to me.
I would have liked to have seen it without the kids. I would have liked to have been able to watch it without the kids present the first time, just to be able to actually adequately respond to it. But with my kids in there and she eats her baby,
child,
I was like,
So right from the get-go on it, just the design of the characters, I was
weird.
like, this is an odd direction to go. I am not digging this.
Agreed.
And then it kind of starts and they're eating food and then spits one of them out and it rolls over like, oh, it's alive. And then raises it and then eats it at the end. You're like, what? Where is this going? And then it revealed like, oh, it's anthropomorphizing her child onto the food that she ate, and so we're seeing the story of her child through the food, and they had a bit of a falling out towards the ends. The child comes back. I got in trouble
because I said I didn't like it because I didn't like cannibalism, and they were like, "It's an allegory," and I'm like, I still didn't like it.
It's just, I don't think had my kids being there had too much to do with that. If they weren't there, I wouldn't have liked it. It was just kind of. I guess I did say I wanted them to take chances and do things that are different. They took a chance, did something and just different, and you know what?
Didn't pay off.
It's like, hey, let's find a way to tell a life story about a child growing up cleverly. But what does it really say? That moms protect their kids, teenagers rebel, and then you learn to patch things up. Like, that's not. Oh wow, I've learned something about the relationship, parenting, and it's not like I was like, this is so funny right from the get-go before it turned into weird eating kid stuff or eating food that turns alive stuff. Before all of that, I thought, this looks weird. I do not like the design of this. From there, it chose a weird way to do something. Like, you went, oh, it's allegory. That's your twist. That was like your twist. And it's like, this has been allegory. That doesn't work so well for me in general. So I'm going to take a few more questions on this one. We're over an hour. So close out on some thoughts. I got to go and edit my vlog about my Comic-Con experience. So what do we got? Some final, like, mind-blowing questions for me.
Someone said the short was cute and adorable. Lots of people liked it. There are a lot of people that do like it. The other thing that I commented on, it was Rachel, and she was saying that she was sure a bunch of her parent friends loved the little short movie and thought it was so cute. And I was like, I did not like it.
Not a fan.
So I find it interesting that it seems to be so polarizing. I feel like
this movie has been too in my comments.
Has it really?
Yeah, the comment section has been a lot of people saying, disappointed, didn't live up to the original, plot felt forced, was too predictable, too much like the first one. Just a lot more negativity than I was expecting.
Yes.
And a bunch of people saying, this doesn't compare to Syndrome, which like I can't really even respond to that because I don't I don't hold Syndrome up as like this the standard of like that's a great villain right there, Syndrome. So I don't know how to respond to some of it. Back to what I alluded to earlier on. So I watched Jeremy Johns' review, and he basically said it's good, but not great. Besides being great eye candy to stare at the thickness. But
so weird.
But he
I
was.
need to watch that. I need to see him say that with a straight
It's
face.
not nearly as creepy as I'm making it sound.
Oh,
but that was kind of his takeaways too. It's just like, it just doesn't compare to Syndrome, just cookie cutter villain. So that's a lot of people's take, and actually everyone that well, that's not true. I was about to say a falsehood. So continue on.
Thoughts on an incredible show? You seem iffy on a sequel, a third.
Does Pixar do spin-off TV shows? Because Disney, of course, does.
Well, I could see Netflix picking it up.
But does Pixar do that, though?
I don't think so.
Short answer is it lends itself well. If they were to say, hey, we're not going to do any more movies anytime soon. Incredibles, the TV show, it lends itself better than Tangled turning into a TV series. That seems weird to me. Like, how do you have weekly adventures? Incredibles, I go, yeah, that makes sense. Short answer. So yeah, I think that would work well.
That style would really be cool with the Incredibles. That same sort of animation style they use with Tangled would be really neat with the Incredibles. That geometric thing again. What if Jack was a villain?
Like Incredible Hulk Gone Wild style?
Nobody indicated that. Just, what if he was a villain?
Just he's like a bad kid, and because they couldn't parent him, so he just grows up to be bad, and that's the Incredibles 3's that Jack grows up the most empire.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
That makes me feel physically ill.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah. So
we'll come back 14 years later, and Jack kills Mr. Incredible on a bridge, and then that's just make it a remake of The Force Awakens.
I'm severely depressed right now.
Yeah. Thanks, you depressed us.
What was your favorite joke in the movie?
Favorite joke in the movie? What did we say earlier? We had somewhere...
The guy that was
crushing it. That
liked
worked pretty well. I can't come up with one at the moment. That's the one we mentioned is the... the Jack stuff seemed to be the most... But that's not a straight joke. So, I don't have a good answer. Sorry.
Yeah, Jack is mine. Not that anyone specifically asked me, but it was hysterical. At first, I thought this is going to be so stupid, and then it just was amazing. Someone said I did not like the movie. Please change my mind.
Why do they not like it? I can try and convince you to tell me why. So, yeah, I don't really have a response if you didn't like it. I would point to if the problem is if you just didn't like the original Incredibles and you didn't like this one, you're not gonna. I don't have anything to say. If you loved the original and then felt like this one was just a big disappointment, like this does not live up to the original one. It felt like they were retreading things. It felt like they were trying to copy certain beats, and it's the magic's gone. What I would say is that watch this one and do your best not to think of it in comparison to the original. Do your best to think, if I only watch this movie without having ever seen the original one, is this a good movie or not? Is this an enjoyable movie? Does it have good action sequences? Is it funny? And look at the movie as clean slate as you can. And I think if you do that, it's a good movie. I would be hard pressed for someone to try and convince me it's just a bad movie, like a poorly designed movie. Besides the predictability and Evelyn Dever, besides that stuff, there's so much.
You saw her name before the movie,
No, but someone pointed that to me afterwards, so I'm going to behave as if I'm brilliant. But that's the character's name.
Right. I think if I'd seen that, I would have thought about it.
Yeah. So I didn't think about it because of the name. I thought about it because she walked in and she went, "Our parents should have called the police." And I went, "Wait a minute. She's going to be evil." But she's going to have an evil endeavor. But so... boom, boom, tsh. So she... throwing me off. What was I talking about?
I'm sorry. You were talking about Evil Endeavor and... I don't know.
The movie, why people didn't like it, and your expectations going into it. If you just watch it in and of itself, technically speaking, it's a gorgeous movie. Technically speaking, well, not technically speaking, the movie's gorgeous, the scores are incredible, the action sequences are thrilling and exciting. So, this comes down, if you don't like it, it seems like it's a plot thing. You didn't like what they did with the plot, or it's a comparison thing. That the original one has so much magic for you. It's such a special place in your heart. You watch this one, and it doesn't have the magic. And depending on how old you are, depending on the context of certain things, some of that's growing up. And I don't see that in a condescending fashion. Some of that's a lesson you learn as you grow up, that when they bring back those things that you have so much nostalgia for, when they come back and do another Star Wars, another Indiana Jones, all the different things that they come back 20 years later and do another one, very rarely is the magic still there. So, you got any final questions, comments for us as we close out this review-a-thon?
Do you think this one was too similar to the first?
No, I didn't feel that way. The specific plot line that Elastigirl gets captured, he goes in, and the whole family comes to rescue them, that was too similar to me. But that's one beat was too similar. In general, I didn't think so.
Why isn't anyone talking about how much Evelyn looks like Roxanne, the reporter from Megamind? It's fair.
Because I've never seen Megamind.
I have seen Megamind. It's on HBO. You can watch it if you really want to.
If I were to watch something on...
and Will Ferrell.
Yes. If I were to watch something on HBO tonight, it would be Westworld.
We're not doing that. We're going to bed.
I'm editing video.
Well, don't poke your eye out, or you won't be able to edit video.
Last question.
I don't have any more written down. Someone asked what the saddest moment was.
The part where Jack died.
You're hilarious.
That was a good joke.
Someone said when the father tried to call the two superheroes and they didn't come because
yeah, I mean that's
syndrome and killed them.
I mean that's the saddest. I mean that's the moment where they do an emotional low in the film.
They were dead? Is that real?
You read that. I that was not my interpretation. They didn't go there because it was illegal to be a superhero, so they didn't. That's what the movie said. If that's an Easter egg, if that's like a way the tales tie together, that's interesting and kind of cool. But the reason, as per the movie, tying into the themes plotline of the movie is they did not show up because it was illegal. Therefore, the brother's motivation was, I need to change the law because heroes are good things. Her interpretation was, my dad's an idiot for trusting superheroes instead of the police. Or going in the safe room. That's what it was, going in the safe room.
Because he trusted superheroes.
Yeah, he didn't go in the safe room.
I see.
Didn't take the mother in the safe room because trusted superheroes that were illegal and didn't show up. Anything else?
No. It says Brad Bird's confirmed that he's done with Incredibles movies, which wouldn't surprise me.
Alrighty, with that said, we're going to close on out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you didn't hear at the very beginning of this, the reason I'm doing this live is because I've been so busy the last few days. I was out of town for a couple days, driving 10 hours to Mississippi, 10 hours back, and then got back, had one day back, and then went to Comic-Con for the last 2 days, and that's where I was earlier today, and I got a video I need to edit and need to put out tomorrow. So for me, I either couldn't do this video at all, or I had to do it live because I just don't have the time to film it, edit it, put clips on it and everything, render it, all that stuff that I normally do for video. I just couldn't do it, so I had to try something different, experiment. I I guess I'll find out in the comment section what people feel about it that weren't here for the live stream, and whether this little experiment worked, and maybe this will become a regular thing for more videos that I do, or maybe we'll never do this ever again. We'll find out based off of what you guys have to say down in the comment section. And as always, thank you for watching.